Hiya folks, I'm Grim and welcome to Grim Grooves. Today we'll be checking out Traveler's Musings, behind the scenes of the music of Inazuma, an area which I'll be going back to later today in my stream, finally. I've been off Genshin for almost a month, which is the longest I've gone without playing it, so I'm really excited to get back into playing it. And I love the music, so I'm really interested to see how it's kind of designed and learn a little bit more about the production process behind the music, because I've been reacting to music for quite a while from Genshin, but it's different being able to see the actual composers at work. So without further ado, let's check out the behind the scenes of the music of Inazuma. Sony music. Interesting.
How-Yo Mix 的特质是做出既合适于产品又令人耳目一新的东西，这也是我们的一贯目标。刀器音乐和梨乐一样，融合了传统乐器和管弦乐的元素。不同的最明显的体现就是对日本传统调式的使用。很多旋律都是基于日本调式写成。刀器的日本传统乐器和管弦乐由日本民族演奏家以及东京爱乐乐团演奏。日本的传统乐器，比如说日本尺八、日本筝、三味线、太鼓等等，都贯穿了整个道器音乐。这些乐器都在遵从传统演奏法的基础上做了现代的创新。为了保证音乐元素的传承性，我们也对一些耳熟能详的主题进行了变奏，比如说大家熟悉的战斗主题的道器版本，又比如说我们的雷神主题是对樱花的致敬。
Sakura, interesting. I love how much reverie the creators of Genshin always give to the cultures that they use the music from. They never just phone it in kind of thing. They always take the time and learn about the actual origins and the core of the instruments and the places that they use the music from, and then build their own music based around the traditions and the styles of that original culture. And it shows in the music and also in the design of the environments that they make. It's never just a cheap imitation. They kind of go in as thoroughly as they can and make it as original and as legitimate as they can to the original kind of source material. And it's just absolutely beautiful. That's the reason why the music from these areas always hits so hard and feels so unique to that area. It's beautiful.
会让玩家觉得既耳熟又新奇。
特别感谢 Sony Music 的协助，我们邀请到了日本顶级的乐队。
First time I've ever seen Yu-Peng Chen outside of just the odd time in a video kind of thing, because every time you guys are like, oh, that guy playing the guitar over there is Yu-Peng Chen, or this is Yu-Peng Chen, but it's the first time I've actually seen him speaking in here, so it's kind of cool to see that behind the scenes stuff here.
东京爱乐乐团，有非常著名的指挥家立田博文先生，负责音乐监制的宫野幸子 Miyano 桑老师，还邀请到了日本当地最优秀的民乐演奏家和歌手。在这个特殊的时期里，我们与东京爱乐乐团采取了线上远程交流的合作方式。整个录音制作的工作进行了1个半月左右，如果再加上前期的沟通，一共准备了近4个月的时间。这一次远程线上合作，我觉得最困难的地方是在于沟通时间的成本加大。
我这边有一个比较重要的问题，我觉得可以先跟他们说一下，就是55小节的那个 oboe 和 clarinet， 就不要55小节就不要渐强了，直接渐弱。
じゃあ97からクリックを出してください。はい。私イントゥで振ります。1小節前から振ります。で、ワン、ツーで99のところです。
はい、では一度クリック出してみます。97です。
I've heard that song before. Really cool though. It's also just fascinating to see all this background information, see how they did it. I figured that Yu-Peng Chen at the time would be like hands-on. Although this may have been in the height of COVID, so it's possible he just couldn't travel to Japan to do this, because I know Japan was fairly shut down for the most part during the pandemic, so it was hard for anyone to get in and out, let alone kind of people from other countries that are just doing work and stuff like that. So I could see why they would have to do this online, but it's just a fascinating idea that the kind of main composer who's creating all of this is not even in the same building as the orchestra that's playing it and stuff like that, and they're just having to listen to it online and kind of choreograph and orchestrate it from a separate country essentially. But it's just a bunch of, like, as they said, they got some of the most talented singers and artists to perform on this, and so it shows in the quality of the music we hear. But it's just fascinating that he was in a different country essentially while he did this. So cool. Yeah, it's a great song.
いかがでしょうか？
唱是怎么样？觉得
我刚才听下来，我觉得挺好的，就是105小节的圆号，那个123圆号的哒哒哒哒那个地方，能不能让它再出来多一点点？就是再响一点，那个地方前面有点轻了。105、106小节。
ここホルン1、2、3一緒にやりたいですけど、楽譜がありますか？ないならまあ
楽譜ないです。
じゃあ他们没有谱子就只能好大丈夫です。
はい。
あとそうグリザンドでなんか少しなんか戦闘みたいな感じにしたいです。
はい、了解です。
はい、
お待たせしました。装飾音を前に出して、グリスで上がってほしいそうです。
装飾音符を前に出して、
はい。で実音が白頭。
いやわかりました。
はい、
それでグリスサンドみたいにしたい。
はい。
ふやーってやりたいわけね。
そういうことです。なんかちょっと戦闘的なイメージでなんていうのかね。
There's definitely a lot of epic feeling in the music from Genshin. So, but I wish I knew more about music theory and stuff like that, so I could follow along more deeply with some of these things. Because I appreciate music. I love music. I have all my life, but I've never really had the classical teachings of kind of music theory and things like that to be able to understand all the minute details when it comes to how music is created and the structure of it and things like that. But it's still cool to see it all performed in, see the background of how it was created, I guess you could say. Still really interesting.
戦闘的なイメージでなんていうのかね、合法みたいな合霊。
稲妻バトルだ。
はい、そういうイメージだそうです。
じゃあその綺麗にやってくれるのはとりあえず言ってくれる。
の方がいいと思います。
お任せします。
Was that good? That would be so much more chill than a whole orchestra playing.
像这样的交流来回一次，可能就是4、5分钟的时间，所以受此影响，一开始的合作进展显得不顺利。
我这边其实有点小的要求，就是可能想要提前沟通一下。いいと思います。就是小打乐器，包括那个叫木鱼啊什么的，我觉得都可以不用演奏了。这部分我觉得 MIDI 可能效果更好，因为音色我觉得有点不太适合。
この曲に関してですか？とりあえず休んでてもらっていい？
そうです、休んでも。老师就是这首曲子不要还是全部都不要？この曲だけです。
わかりました。すみません、演奏の問題では全然ないんですけれども、打楽器の音程のない打楽器の方はとりあえずこの曲に関しては休んでいってもらってもいいですかというリクエストです。
演奏の問題ではないんだけど、なんかすごいそれ思いましたけど。
It must be a logistical nightmare to be able to do something like this. because you have like the crew here that's trying to. It seems like they're trying to convey like Yu-Peng Chen's thoughts on the piece and things like that, and then you have Yu-Peng Chen, of course, relaying it to these people, who are then relaying it to the orchestra to kind of try and get him to do a certain things and play certain ways or whatever. Again, I could be misunderstanding what's going on here. Maybe these are also composers that are also kind of working on it, but maybe we'll find out as it goes on. But super interesting though, regardless, like the whole process that came to making all this crazy music on obviously different styles or different areas of musics were performed in different ways and created in different ways. They weren't all done in the exact same method, but regardless, like it's still an interesting process to see done.
小さな、音程のない打楽器という一級。そう。
カスタネットとか。
カスタネットとハンマ
いや具体的に言ってもらった方が早い。この楽器やめてくれって。そっちの方が傷つかないです。
これでも今日その打楽器の人たち帰っちゃうけれども、それでいいですね。
そうです。先生がインストで使った音源の方がなんか自分にふさわしいイメージにしたみたいなんです。
いいですよ。もうだからそれでもう今回はいらないっていうんだったら、その打楽器の人はこの曲はとにかくもういらないってことでばらしますけど、そういうことになっちゃうから、それでオーケストラの奏者のテンションが下がるんですよ。一生懸命いいものをやりたいと思ってるのに。それをなんとかしてくださいって言ってるの、今の休憩で。ね。で皆さんがちゃんと先生とやり取りして、次に向かってやってもらわないと。
I could see that being a bit rough, like you're an incredibly talented artist or musician, and you're hired to do music on this project, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you know what, percussion guys, we don't need you, we're just going to use an automated MIDI file or MIDI music instead, like use computer generated music instead of your actual playing. It almost feel like my playing wasn't good enough, so instead you're going to default to using kind of computer generated music instead. But I do understand where Yu-Peng Chen would be sitting from that, because there is a distinct difference in sound between a like actually played piece of or instrument, I guess you could say, versus a MIDI file kind of thing, or again using a computer produced sound. Like there's distinct sounds for each one, and in some situations one might fit better than another, of course, but it doesn't help with, like they say, the morale of the musicians who are told, like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. The whole rest of the orchestra or whatever, we need you, but specifically the percussion, you can go home. Like that'd be kind of rough, especially if again you're a classically trained musician or something like that, and you're all of a sudden told, like, now we're going to use computer generated instead. Like, yeah, that'd be a bit rough, but I mean, it is a job, right? Just like any other.
で皆さんがちゃんと先生とやり取りして次に向かってやってもらわないと、毎回そのいるいらないなんて奏者に対して失礼でしょう。今日までさらってきてるんですよ、練習して。で来たらなしってさ、この曲だけすごい人数が多いんですよ。ね。でそのために準備をしていろんな人を集めてるわけ。じゃあもうそれはもういいから、ただこの後の段取りだけ時間内になるようにだけちょっとそれだけやってください。もうこれ以上時間をしたらもう OK 帰りますから。わ
かりました。失礼いたしました。
那么我也明白，乐手与指挥家积极的演奏状态肯定会因此受到影响。但我认为，正是因为在这样艰难的这种环境下，才能够加深大家彼此的信任。比如说合作到后来，我会很少尽量不提修改意见，因为已经很信任日本的音乐监制Miyano桑，对现场音乐演奏的判断。
Okay, so this would be the Japanese producer, I'm assuming, that he's talking about right now. Like, so this crew in here are probably a group of Japanese producers or composers, liaisons for the orchestra kind of thing, and they have their own ideas, but then Yu-Peng Chen is was at least the kind of head designer for these songs, but then he handed over to them and like let them kind of do what they think is right to make it sound the best it can possibly sound. But yeah, I could definitely see people getting offended or being upset about being told they're essentially being replaced by computer generated music. But again, when someone has a specific vision for something they want to have created, it makes sense for them to do it in the way that they specifically want done. And Yu-Peng Chen seems like that type of person where the music has to be just so, like, they want it to be as good as possible, and he has such a vision for the music he's made. Like, all the music for these games that Yu-Peng Chen made was always just so phenomenal. And so, I mean, that kind of vision is what makes these things possible. But then to say, like, it'll help us build trust. But yeah, it's really interesting.
日本的音乐监制米亚诺桑，对现场音乐演奏的判断，他会主动提出一些演奏改良的建议，然后指挥栗田博文先生也会根据乐谱的内容有些不确定的地方，事先会询问米亚诺桑。那么如此一来，我们的合作效率就变高了很多。等到了乐队休息的时间，我会再调出之前的录音回放一遍。如果音乐需要修改，我们会放在下个日程去进一步改善。那么通过这段时间的双方磨合，也让我成长了许多。
I always thought Yu-Peng Chen was a lot older than he is here. It's interesting. I mean, as I said, I only really saw Yu-Peng Chen in very specific situations where it's like, you'd be like, oh, he's over there playing a specific instrument, but you don't really get to see much of him there. I guess I just assumed he was older, but he seems fairly young, which is even more impressive for how good of a composer he is. Like, it's so impressive. Love that song.
ありがとうございます。大変美しかったと思います。いただきます。
麻烦替我感谢那个监制嘛。
ありがとうございます。大変美しかったと思います。
非常谢谢。
好的好的，我们会转达的。
休憩かな？
哦对，忘了还要感谢指挥，指挥实在是处理太好了，表现的太好了。还有当然还要感谢乐队了，谢谢。
で休憩かな？
すごく美しいって伝え全部とても美しいです。
作曲家の先生からとても美しいと伝えていただきたいというふうに今。
It's like a game of telephone. Like, one tells the producer, or Yu-Peng Chen tells the producer tells the orchestra, like, and then back and forth. Like, it would be rough, like, trying to, like, again, the logistics of all this, being able to do all this from another country via live stream, and you're conveying your thoughts and your opinions and what you want done to producers, which they're then conveying, like, there's a go-between, which I guess would help break down some of the issues a little bit, because it's not, I mean, it is directly coming from the composer, Yu-Peng Chen, but at the same time, there's a go-between, there's a middleman here with the producers and stuff like that. So maybe be able to soften the blow of certain decisions that are made, because it's not coming directly from Yu-Peng Chen. It's coming from another, I don't know, person that you're probably more familiar with. Like, they've probably worked with these producers before and stuff like that. I don't know. It's all interesting, though, the behind-the-scenes stuff here.
作曲家の先生からとても美しいと伝えていただきたいというふうに今メッセージがありましたので。
恐れ入りますとお伝え
指揮者の先生にもとっても感謝して。
指揮者の先生にもとても感謝していますと。
いや、こちらこそ感謝しているとお伝えください。
后面有几首曲子真的是被打动了，就是他们的情感啊处理得非常好，非常细腻。也很意外，因为有2首曲子，不是有首曲子一开始是马林巴嘛，我太难写的太难了，我不敢让那个马林巴乐手演奏，所以想说有2个版本，但后来他们还是很坚持要演奏。后来我想了想，可能他们真的回去是有仔细的练习了，练了很多次，然后结果一出来我就说他练过的，因为那个一定是他练完了以后才能够一个音都不错，非常复杂的一个声部的马林巴。我一开始是很担心嘛，所以就是对，主要可能是表达方式，其实应该跟他说我们能不能够先暂时不要演奏，然后来一个没有这个乐器的版本。对，应该是这么说，而不应该说我直接不要这些乐器，这样的话可能会比较伤害他们的这个感情。对，下次我也会注意的这方面。
Never underestimate the talent and ability of musicians and people who are good at their craft. Like, I mean, you give them a challenge, they're going to try and rise to it, and it's really impressive too, like, that he didn't think it would be really possible or viable to use what he created because it's too complex, so he was probably just going to go with a digital version or something like that, and then they stepped up to the game and were able to do it.
这个感情。对，下次我也会注意的这方面。
1日間今回レコーディングをさせていただきましたが、まあとにかく無事に終えてとてもほっとしてます。たくさんの日本の伝統的な楽器をお使いになっていて。
Such a beautiful venue too. I mentioned this when I reacted to the other Inazuma concert kind of videos I've done, but it's such a beautiful environment that they're in the studio or whatever. It's just so beautifully designed, and it would be just so amazing to see an actual show performed there. Like, I can only imagine how crazy that would be.
でまたその使い方が楽譜を見ていくと非常に効果的にそういうサウンドを作ってらっしゃるなっていうのを思いました。楽譜に書かれてることをできるだけまず忠実にすると、その裏側にある皆さんの思いみたいなのが具体的なサウンドになっていくかなということでトライしてますので、そういう意味じゃなんていうんですかね、とてもいいテイクができたんじゃないかと思います。
中国人の陳先生が日本をイメージされて作ってる曲だと思うので、日本人はこういうのは逆に思いつかないよねっていうような
I can see that.
日本的な旋律なんですけど、どこか日本っぽくないみたいな、すごくちょっとパラレルワールドみたいなところがすごく逆に素敵だなと思いました。
That would be really surreal though. Like, imagine you're a classical Japanese kind of musician or whatever, and you've played for years and years, and you know these kind of instruments, you know the style of the Japanese music you're used to, and then this Chinese composer comes in and creates some of the most unique and beautiful kind of Japanese themes that you may have ever heard, or at least in a while. It's like there's definitely some unique elements to almost every song that Yu-Peng Chen composed, and he's really always able to capture the feel and the atmosphere of the countries that he made music for. And it would just be surreal to be a musician from one of those countries and be like, damn, this guy knows what he's doing, despite the fact that he's not even from our country and stuff like that. Like, and yeah, I don't know, it'd be so impressive. Crazy to be a part of this.
日本演奏家对细节的把控相当的严谨，比如说乐谱上的表情记号，所有的乐手都会处理得相当的精准，令人惊叹。印象最深刻的是，现场有这么多的乐手，在录音期间几乎没有发出什么杂音，大家小心地不发出任何乐器以外的声响。在录制一首十分安静的乐曲的时候，
One thing that can certainly be said about Japanese people is that they are incredibly diligent when it comes to work. Like, no matter what the work is, they put in like so much more care and detail to the work that they do than most other places and people. Like, they just have an incredibly strong work ethic and so much respect for the work that they did. Like, imagine this was done like in the US. Like, let's say Genshin did like an area that was based on America, and you have like a bunch of American musicians playing here. I'm not saying that they wouldn't be able to perform equally as well, but you can pretty much guarantee that there would be a lot more like little mistakes here and there, and people would just make a little bit of noise here and there. Like, there'd be more issues like that. Whereas again, like he's saying, like the dedication from Japanese musicians here, where they're trying to make it as perfect as they humanly can in every way that they can, and it shows in the music that they've made. Like, it's so beautiful and so well made.
不任何乐器以外的声响，在录制一首十分安静的乐曲的时候，我甚至怀疑是现场所有的人都屏住了呼吸，才可以将乐曲处理得这么的干净的清澈。
It's dedication.
了解到之前地区的战斗音乐很受玩家的喜爱，这次道气的战斗音乐创作，我花了许多时间去构思。这次还多写了一首，所以应该是4首与众不同的野外战斗曲，分别有不同的乐器组合演奏不同的节奏律动。比如说，其中一首只有传统的日本民乐器太鼓、3味线、尺八，但是曲式上呢，我借鉴了现代电子音乐的节奏变化风格，有 build up， 还有 drop。
Yeah.
另外一首战斗曲， 会在日本民乐器基础上适当的增加一些管弦乐的声部，还有着人声的元素。还有一首战斗音乐是在激昂的太鼓节奏律动下加入了道奇主题曲的长线条的旋律，由弦乐去演奏，那么去试图营造一种执着的精神，同时呢又充满着悲伤、萧瑟之情。
He definitely captured that with that theme. Like, it's really interesting to see it, like how his mind works for creating these songs, like using electronic elements to create the drop and things like that, and the different elements from the different kind of regions that he's taken the music from or the styles from. It's just absolutely beautiful, and it's so interesting to see. Like, I can only imagine how, like, because you think about it, most musicians, they play music, they play it to a crowd, whatever. They compose music, they play it to a crowd. You see kind of a huge orchestra playing to a group. But when it comes to video game music, it's like making YouTube videos or whatever. Like, I make the video, but I don't see you guys reacting, or I don't see you guys enjoying it necessarily. Like, there's no way to do that. It's the same thing with a video game composer. Like, you may eventually meet people who are like, oh, I love your music, or do a actual concert and be able to show, like, or be able to see there how much people appreciate it. But aside from that, like, he just kind of made the music, hopes people like it, and puts it out there. Like he said that, like, oh, apparently the players enjoyed the past battle music I've done. Like, and this is Inazuma, so this is only like the third or fourth zone of the game, right? So there's only so much to it. Like, they've only made so much at this point, and you're not really able to see the direct, like, impressions of other people enjoying your music for the first time. You just kind of, it's like, do they like it or do they not? But, like, I mean, the amount of work and effort and passion that goes into the music that's for these games, only to, like, not be able to actually see how people like it, other than just, like, hearing online people saying, I like this or I don't like it. But it's different when you're, like, actually performing it. Like, if he had made it, performed it, and then had, like, a whole crowd that's listening to it for the first time, I guess it'd be different. And obviously they do concerts eventually where you do get to see how much people really appreciate it and stuff. But it would just be surreal to create music that's this amazing and then not actually be able to see how people like it, other than, again, online and stuff like that. I don't know. It's interesting.
7に行きます。同じとこから出ます。お願いします。
2大流派がありまして、生田流と山田流という流派があるんですけれども、私は生田流の方で演奏していまして、こちらの四角い爪を使って演奏するのにあたって、ちょっと斜め左を向いて演奏するという決まりがあります。そこは流派が山田流とはちょっと違くて、山田流はまっすぐ向いて演奏するんですけれども、爪もこうとんがっていたりとか、メロディーとともに変動していく曲がとっても多いんですけれども、どこかでつながっていって日本の5音階を多用しているなというふうにすごく思ったんですけれども、あとは壮大な自然を感じるようなイメージを強く受けました。普段から後ろにある25元奏を今年で誕生して30周年の記念の年なんですけれども、あちらの楽器をライフワークとして使用していまして、今回の曲を弾くのにあっちの楽器がないとちょっと難しかったところがたくさんあるので、続けていてよかった。
That'd be awesome too. Just as a musician, you're kind of playing whatever you get paid to play kind of thing. But in a situation like this, when you're brought in to play such original and unique and interesting arrangements of music that are probably unlike things you've done before, it would just be so cool to be able to kind of flex your chops and just play as best as you can. I mean, in that kind of Inazuma concert series they did when it was like in the room and she's playing the koto, it's absolutely insane how fast she can move, and like just being able to play such intricate melodies so fluidly. Like, it's so impressive, and like I can only imagine how difficult that would be to learn and get to that point, especially when an instrument like that with so many strings and so many different ways to play. Like, it's mind-boggling how crazy that is.
就是92哒哒哒哒，就每一个这种哒哒哒哒滴滴滴滴，就是稍微让它断一点点，然后可以每个音的那个每个音的那个时长可以多少有一些不太一样，可以吹成哒哩哒啦啦哒啦哒哒啦。
古典尺八の音は独特なので、今回の尺八パートの音のイメージに合わせて日本の古典尺八の音が伝わるかどうか心配でした。自然が織りなす神秘的な音や激しい戦い、儚さや強さ、そして自然の摂理な
I love how they're also talking about the feelings of the music that they're making. Like, they're not just talking about the music itself, like here, like the notion of the surreal, powerful, earthly, like, and it's true. Like, when I listen to, even when I react to it, it's like you can feel these different emotions and these different kind of vibes of this music that they kind of worked into it, that Yu-Peng Chen planned to have these kind of different feelings about, and it works really, really well.
とドラマ性が高い曲だなと思いました。尺八の場合ビブラートは首をこう横であったり縦にこう振る、それをユリという技法なんですけど、ユリをたくさん使ってビブラートを強弱をつけているので、それぞれパートによって全て違うので、そこの違いを楽しんでいただけたらなと思っています。リモートで直接中国のプロデューサーの方と演奏をして、それをすぐに聴いていただいてリプライをもらって、でここはもうちょっとこういうニュアンスでっていうやり取りをして曲を作っていたんですけど、もうなんかよりこう一緒に作り上げている感がすごく感じられて、とても楽しく演奏することができました。普段の演奏の場合は曲の始めと曲の終わりに必ず合唱をするようにしています。それは聞きに来てくださったお客様にもなんですけど、全てにおいて感謝の気持ちを込めて演奏できるように合唱するようにしています。
So wholesome. It's also beautiful to be able to see, like, put a face behind the music, because obviously we play these games, we hear the music all the time, but you never really think about the individual artists who play the individual instruments in these songs. And like these last few we've been shown, like, they're both incredibly talented at what they do, and you can hear it, like every song they play that has these instruments in them, and also the live shows that we've seen, like, it just obviously incredibly talented. And to see that they're also very humble as well, and like so appreciative of that people are appreciating their music and stuff. And at this point, they probably don't know how people took their music yet. They're still making it at this point, so they don't know how the audience is going to react to it. Like, it could be terrible. They don't know, but they're just appreciative to be a part of it. And I mean, I would too. Like, it would be so amazing to be a part of something like this that's just so impressive and so incredibly well made.
三味線にはいろいろ種類がありまして、僕がやってるのは津軽三味線という数ある三味線の中でも一番大きな楽器なんですけど、譜面届いた時に、いやこれはもうまず一見して弾けないと思いました。難しい、もうこれ弾けるかなっていう。
すごく悩んでて、多分後の編集もそういう音程に到達するのが不可能と思って、リズムとか確認して、音色も確認して、音程も確認して、ちょっと今追いつかないみたいな感じですね。
That'd be really tough. It's such fast playing.
歯切れは良かったけど。
And that's the other thing that you never really think about is, like, in order to play in the way that these songs are played, you have to all play exactly perfect every single time, like especially when you're recording it, because like you see these big orchestral versions and you see like 100 different like instruments and and artists all playing their music, and it's like every single person has to be exactly on point. Like if one person messes up and screws something up, you just have to redo the whole thing, and that's why they practice over and over and over again. Like, I mean, obviously, like I've said before, it's a job like any other, but the amount of dedication that takes to be able to work up the skill to be able to do these things, like, because most jobs you're just doing a job, like you don't have to work at like the top level of your job at all moments. But when you're a musician and you're recording music for a specific thing, you really do have to be on the top of your game and be absolutely perfect. Like whenever you play it live and whenever you're recording it, whatever. Like, and I'm sure it definitely takes multiple takes because mistakes do happen. But when when 70 people are all playing at the exact same time and are all just playing their parts perfectly, like it really is magical, like the way that music is created and the amount of dedication that takes. And yeah, music like this that's just so high level and such fantastic music, like it's even more impressive.
他说，简单来说，金青三味线就是那种比较有男子气概、比较帅气的那种乡下的，就是一种乡村的味道，是比较有那种气魄的那种感觉。但是如果是就是那种细的，另外的那种流派，就是另外一种三味线的话，就是比较缥缈，有可能就是接近您想要的那种比较抒情的那种感觉。
OK。
とりあえずテイクを重ねることでどうにかなるって感じでは思ってないのであれば、まずこの後ろをまず埋めちゃうっていうことをやっといた方がいいかなと今日は。この場でなんか3、40分またこねくり回しても演奏が変わるわけではないとは思うから。
そうですね。
先生が描いてる。There is also the possibility that they record in individual pieces and then put them all together in like an audio program, but I don't know. I think a lot of it is recorded live though. Like again, we've seen many of the shows that they've done where they all perform live, and it is always incredibly impressive.
そうですね。先生が描いてる音色ニュアンスとこの津軽三味線が持っている強さとか、そういったものがあんまり合致しなかったり、逆に言えばすごく合ってる部分もあったり、とにかく自分の中でもかなり今までやってきたレコーディングの中でもハイクラスの難しさを感じています。その世界に向けて和の音をしっかり表現していくっていう結構責任も感じたりしてますし、先生に喜んでもらいたいっていう奏者としてはそこなので、まだまだ全然始まったばっかりですけど。
Like, it's interesting if you strip it back to the core elements of what this is. It's like a video game hires a composer who then creates music that is steeped in like organic Japanese tradition and then reaches out to Japanese artists like this guy to be able to make music of like traditional Japanese folk music that is asked for by a kind of Chinese producer and company or composer and company for a video game. Like it's like so many disconnects from like what normal traditional like high level musicians would be doing. Like you'd have like a huge concert of like some classical composer or whatever and stuff like that. Meanwhile, here's like a random video game company like, hey, we want to make some music, and then you see the music and it's like, this is the craziest thing I've ever worked on in my life. But then you make it, it's like, oh, it sounds so amazing and everything. Like it's like, again, it would be crazy to be a part of, but it would be incredibly difficult at the same time.
先生の意図をちゃんと組んで世界観の一つになれるように頑張りたいなと思ってます。
希望就是见谅，就你们演奏的已经相当好了，就是我觉得非常非常感谢，真的。
いや先生はやっぱ僕が書いた楽曲が難しすぎたよねってずっと言って
特别感谢三味线的演奏老师们。这一次原神音乐对于三味线演奏要求非常非常高，难度很大。那么4位老师都花了许多时间去练习，在录音期间，我们花许多时间一遍一遍的磨合。所有三味线老师都显得特别有耐心。当然， 这一切最终的效果都是非常非常好的。
Yeah, it was.
次から途中でわーってなったら止めてもいいですか？確実に間違えたという時は自分であーいって言ってください。ずれたらこっちで止めます。
1曲目はかなり6時間ぐらいかかりましたのでこの調子であと4曲取ったらあと18時間かかるなみたいな。でも最終的にはみんなの体にも少しずつ入っていって、1曲目のなんかこう魂が1回体に入っちゃえばなんか 2曲目3曲目4曲目は割とスムーズにいけたかな。
The other thing you have to take into account is like people's own like dexterity and their ability to do this consistently. Like they're saying like it took 6 or 8 hours to do the first part. You know what I mean? Like imagine that you're having to try and play at your maximum abilities for 6 hours, and obviously there was breaks and things like that along the way, but still like being able to perform that well like at the beginning and then also 6 hours later after you've been doing it all day. Like imagine how much your fingers would hurt or your arms or whatever, like depending on the instrument you're playing, of course, but like it would just be mind-blowing to be able to work that hard for that long at that high level and try not to make any mistakes. And obviously mistakes would be made here and there. That's why they continue to do it over and over again. But once you get that perfect run, it's like playing a game, a difficult game, and you just play it over and over again. Although, again, this is on another level when you're playing an instrument for that long, because instruments are not easy to play for the most part. They always take something out of you to do. And yeah, it would be intense to do it for like that long and just trying to get the perfect run. And then you do perfect, but then buddy beside you screws up in some way or whatever. It would be tough.
それぞれのセクションで別々で撮ってるので、例えばオーケストラはオーケストラの方で撮って、なんていうかその同時に一緒にやれないので、そこの息を合わせるのが意外とちょっと今回難しかったなっていう感じはしましたね。
Interesting.
いいです俺が勝手に気持ち悪いもんだってとて
次が点から入るんですけど、
じゃあもう
なんでドドドドドでもいいですか？
ドドドドドド点と手手と点手トン手トン手って感じで。
そんな感じなんですか？そう、これさっき知ったの。これがドドドドドドドドドドってやらなきゃいけなくて、技術的に難しくて。
どうしてもちょっとバラバラだとすごいコミカル聞こえちゃうので、
そうですね。
1個の方がまだ取りやすいかもって思ってて。
これを制作してる人のミス確認。
なんか申し訳ないですけど、やっぱ1個でもう一回弾いてみてもいいですか？
レアビー。レア。朗報です。締め太鼓1個でいいっぽいです。マジですか？
その日本の楽器使ってるのにいい意味で日本らしくないっていうのがすごく気持ちよかったし、ある意味このルーツをたどっていける感じがして、なんかそういう意味ですごい意味深い楽曲なんじゃないかなってすごい思います。シルクロードを渡って僕らの楽器っていうのは来たんだなって改めて思わされたというか、先生の楽曲はそれが果てしなくこう広がっていく感じがして、やっぱりそこはなんていうか、僕らも太鼓でこうドーンって一発打った時にその果てまで広がっていく音みたいなイメージはやっぱりしっかり持ってやりましたね。
It's definitely one thing his music always has is a sense of intensity and grandiosity or whatever, grandiose nature of the music. Like it's always so epic and so intense. And meanwhile, again, we're just playing Genshin, like not even thinking about it, just playing casually as the crazy music plays in the background. But yeah, the amount of work that goes into every single song we hear in games like Genshin, it's just so impressive to see. This is really cool.
はい、先生からも OK いただきまして、大丈夫かな。なので、古藤さんの収録本日これで以上になります。
那么太鼓的鼓童团队 他们的演奏着实令人惊叹，因为这次战斗曲的节奏异常的复杂，没想到他们在人数众多的情况下，依然会对节奏控制的十分精准。有10几个鼓手同期演奏的太鼓的声音特别有质感。
That's crazy.
就是演奏太鼓的人，就是他们也不是专门来唱歌的，是友情过来帮忙，然后就觉得应该还可以，就演奏，挺好的，配合的挺好。就我后面是真的是想写，就是非常线下的这种一气呵成，然后可能都是太鼓在演奏的这样的曲子，因为还是气质太鼓的这个音色的气质是现在是很吻合我们现在游戏里面的所需要的这个内容，所以还是有机会的。所以可能到时候就拜托了，就辛苦了，辛苦了。
今後ともよろしくお願いします。
こちらこそよろしくお願いいたします。
他说也请您多多关照。
谢谢吗？谢谢。
作曲要は、クライアント様のサイドが中国にあってで、和のテーマをもとに日本のミュージシャンが参加して音の最終調整がイギリスで行われるっていう伺っているので本当に世界を股にかけてその制作が行われたプロジェクトっていうのが、自分的にも関われて本当に楽しかったですし原神という、ね、ゲーム自体全世界で発信されてると思うのでクリエイターサイド制作側
The first time we actually get to see gameplay of Genshin or like Genshin at all through this entire thing. Like, I mean, obviously it's not necessary. It's about the music of the game, but it's just interesting that we've been here for, well, the video is 25 minutes long. Obviously, I've gone longer because I've got a bunch of random stuff to talk about. But it's just interesting, like, again, taking it back to what the core of this is. It's like, this is music for a video game, but the amount of passion that goes into every different element of it shows why the music is so good. And I've listened to probably over 100 Genshin songs at this point, and each one is unique and stands on its own. It's beautiful. And even after Yu-Peng Chen left the game, they were still at such a high level of production and composition that it just keeps getting better. Even like Notlan music, like I've been absolutely loving Notlan music. And again, Yu-Peng Chen didn't have anything to do with it, although his original creations helped to put lay the groundwork for what Genshin music would be going forward. And yeah, it's just crazy how what's become now.
熱量が各地でこもったものが世界の皆様に届くっていうのは本当に感慨深いので、プレイ実際にしてみると音楽と合わさって感動的なシーンとかだったり、あとその広い世界の中で遊んでるっていうのにすごくマッチした作品だと思っているので、今回の曲に関してもそういった皆さんのなんかハッとなる体験の一つのなんか要素になればいいな。
Yeah, it is.
音乐上的合作关系本质上是一种文化的交流，特别是在如何演奏此时此刻的音乐作品，每个人有着各自的态度和理解，我想应该是互相尊重、彼此信任，不得不说，最终的音乐效果是非常的棒。
今回のこれを通して思ったのは、こういう形でね、音楽を通じて、日本とそして中国の文化交流がこういう形でできたのをとても嬉しく思っていますし、それとこの今回の収録した音源がですね、全世界の原神のファンの皆さんに楽しんでいただければ嬉しく思っています。
They certainly have done that.
ありがとうございました。
这是一次跨文化的合作，传统但不限于传统，希望能让玩家深刻地感受到这里是原神。
This is Genshin Impact. It certainly is. Like, the amount of effort that went into it shows in the music we listen to, and it sounds so amazing. Like, I'm going to be playing Genshin again later today, and I cannot wait. I mean, it depends when you're watching. Obviously, it's Friday, or, well, technically it's Thursday for me right now, but it'll be Friday when this comes out, and I'll be playing Genshin at 6 p.m. Pacific time tonight. Again, if it's Friday, but anyways, on Grim Goodnight, my second channel. But yeah, I'm really excited to get back into more Inazuma, especially after hearing this, because it's just so epic to see the production process for all this crazy music we listen to. I mean, there's so many phenomenal songs for each individual area of the game, and I've never really seen any of the behind the scenes stuff for the game, so it's really impressive and interesting to see just how much work goes into it. And sometimes, again, we forget that we just think it's another part of the game, or it's just the music. But the music is such an integral part of every piece of media out there, whether it's movies or TV shows or games or whatever. Without the music, it doesn't really work. Like, there's just so many, like, impactful moments that would be so much less impactful if it didn't have the music behind it. And Genshin Impact in particular, like, is just such a high level of music production that it almost set the stage for what other creators started doing, or other game studios started doing. Like, I don't know that Arknights and so many of the other game studios would be at the point they are if it wasn't for companies like Genshin just putting so much emphasis on the music of the game. And it's just so impressive, like, every single time, just to see how amazing the music is and how well it's played and stuff. Like, it's just mind-blowing, the amount of work that goes into these things, and we get to experience every day when we play these games, or every time we play these games. Like, and we never really think about how the sausage gets made, kind of thing. But it was phenomenal to see this behind-the-scenes stuff. It's really cool. And I'll certainly do the other ones of these too, because this was awesome. But anyways, thanks for hanging out and watching my reaction. I've been talking for almost an hour now, so I'll be gonna get out of here. But until next time, later days, folks.